We have our sock blanks. They've been soaking in citric acid water for a couple hours. We have our urea and sodium alginate paste that's been made up, mixed with black dye and citric acid water. The ingredients and proportions are going to be in the description box below. We have our paintbrush. Any cheap one that's flat and wide will do. Custom cut laser stencil and little jello shot glasses that work perfectly for the thickened dye. You want it to be about that thick, like jello that's starting to set. Lay the blank out on plastic wrap, leaving about 6 inches on either end. Horse syringe from the veterinary supply. You can also use these from Amazon, although I find the threads aren't that great over time and you will get little leaks, so I prefer using this. And we're just going to apply our dye. In this case, I want to make a circle of brighter dye that I can overlay a black stencil on, so I want the dye to be laid out basically from here to here. And then we just lay this out like this and like this. And we start laying it in. The dye is on, and what I like to do in the area where I'm going to put the stencil is blot up as much excess as I can, because if it's very sloppy and very wet underneath, the thickened dye will bleed and it won't give you a crisp line. So you just blot up as much as you can so that it's barely damp. Now we're just going to take some of our dye from right here, and usually I'll put it on the side and then I start painting it in. So I will kind of press the stencil down, see how now it's going to be nice and stuck. Like that. You see how the dye isn't spreading? I like to wipe up any stray dye residue before I wrap this, so I don't get color bleeding like so. Then we're going to take the end here. Now we do it on the other side. Now we bring the sides up and roll it jelly roll style. So we're going to look at Goldilocks and the Three Little Bears. This is what happens when you don't dry the blank down first, so it's too wet. This, if you look closely, is when the dye is too thick so you don't get a nice crisp stencil. And this is just right. It's crisp, the lines are nice, there's no bleed. See how there's like a shadow? Because this was too wet. So I did one of each to show you why you want a nice thick dye and a really barely damp stencil when you put it down. And then here's another example. When you look closely, you can see there's no fade, no bleed. The line is really crisp versus this, where the dye was too thick and the stencil edges aren't crisp. So I hope that helps you in your sock blank stenciling career.